Hey everybody, hey! Thanks for coming back to the Lightning Bolt Chronicles. I am Christina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram, host of McCrazy's Place podcast on YouTube, and it has an Instagram, co-host of Thursday Night Live on the Sarcarrogance Media Group YouTube. It also streams on my YouTube, Fat Girl Chronicles YouTube, and all 3 Facebook pages. And it has its own Facebook page and an IG. And co-host of the Lightning Bolt Chronicles. We have a YouTube. We have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a Facebook. And after my beautiful co-host introduces herself, we'll tell you a little bit more and a few more new developments.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back, wherever you are. Welcome back, all my magical friends. It's nice to see you all again. Today's an exciting beginning, kind of, I guess, of everything. I am Erica. I am co-host of these wonderful Lightning Bolt Chronicles. And you can find me on IG at PoodleNoodle82. That's all.
I heart you. Okay, so for those of you who don't like to watch podcasts, and we know that last week our inaugural episode ran a little long, we are now on Spotify. That audio-only version is also broadcasting on our website. Yes, that's right. We have a website, www.thelightningboltchronicles.com. You'll see a couple of bios on your co-hosts and a couple of other fun little things. And of course, it's brand new, so it will grow as we do. And then for those of you worried about the Making Magic clip or the craft making clip, we will release that clip by itself via video for those audio listeners the following week after the episode publishes. So, and then Erica, you want to talk about what else we got going on?
What else do we have going on?
That's Output Week. What do we have interactive?
Oh, we have so many things interactive. We're really excited to let you guys be part of the podcast. So basically the way that we're going to be breaking it down and releasing stuff to you guys, you will, hopefully if you're paying attention, you will be able to be part of it. We actually already released one of the things that we're doing, and that is our trivia for the main Chronicle part of the podcast. So if you're listening, then you'll know the answers, do your best and see. Eventually we're also going to release the poll, like the answers to all the questions. And then we're also going to do a bit of a nailed it, failed it on the craft, which is really exciting because my co-host will be trying her hand at some of my crafts and see how it goes. Hopefully it is as accessible and as simple as I want it to be, so that, the average, maybe not so crafty kind of person can accomplish that. And then you get to vote on whether she nailed it or failed it, whether she made magic or didn't quite hit the target. Oh yeah, whether she made magic.
Mondays.
Yes, whether she made magic or mischief, which I'm very excited to watch that.
I feel like you're the magic maker and I'm the mischief maker, but we'll see how it goes.
I'm confident that you will be able to make magic.
And in addition to that, we will put up the Hallows and Horcrux, the Hallows or Horcruxes Would You Rather question as a poll, so that you guys can answer that question as well. The one that will be discussed on this episode will drop in that interactive week. So we have a lot of exciting stuff coming your way, but with no further ado, it's time for the Chronicle. Okay, so we said we'd go in chapter order. So chapter 1, book 1. Do you want to give a summary?
Sure. Okay, so we've got chapter 1, book 1. My book is a little worse for the wear. So
my bad.
Oh yeah, see now I like to hold it, you know. So
Yeah.
chapter 1, book 1, chapter 1 is The Boy Who Lived. Basically, what happens in this chapter is the introduction of the main characters, right? So we have, here's a boy who lived. Da, 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 da. Anyway, we're introduced to the Dursley family, and the Dursley family take Harry Potter in to, we'll start over. Harry Potter, things happen in his life, tragic things. On October 31st, his family is attacked by Lord Voldemort, and Hagrid takes him away from that house, from that ruins of a house, and takes him over to number 4 Privet Drive, where his family, the Dursleys, live. The Dursleys are as muggle as you can possibly be.
What I said was, that's literally all that happens in this chapter.
Oh, basically.
Yeah. The rest of it is literally them describing, like you said, the 7 main characters.
Yes.
And we meet them all in this chapter.
Who are they? So, who are the 7 main characters that we meet in this chapter?
So I wrote them down in order of appearance as I was reading the chapter. And so the first person you meet is Vernon Dursley. And the second person you meet is Petunia Dursley. And the third person you meet is Dudley Dursley. But what I have to say is the first line of the first chapter is frigging iconic. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Love that. Absolutely love that. So then it
Agreed.
goes on to describe Vernon and his very mundane day and the things he sees as he's out walking around. But I mean, it's Halloween, so, whatever. And then he goes home and we meet Petunia. Actually, no, we meet them before he leaves for work, because already Dudley, who's no more than a year or so old, is an effing brat already. And they're already playing into it. So, yeah. Then after we get to meet them and they go to bed. You can't hear me?
Oh. Now I can, but it fluctuated. It went really loud.
Okay. After you meet them and they go to bed, then we meet. Well, it's debatable. Do we meet? No, we don't. We meet Professor Dumbledore first. Then we meet Professor McGonagall, although she's been there the whole time. But we don't meet her until after we meet Dumbledore.
Right.
Then we meet Hagrid. And lastly, we meet Harry. And Harry's asleep. So
yes.
That is the first chapter, just kind of giving you the lay of the land and introducing you to the first 7 characters.
Perfect. So based on all of that, how do you feel about this chapter?
It's very cute and it's good for drawing you in. There were little things that were very, very telling. So on the iPad, I can highlight with my finger. Mm-hmm. So one of the passages that I highlighted was, So after Mr. Dursley gets hugged by a complete stranger, he's standing there for a second, and then it says he hurried to his car and set off for home, hoping he was imagining things, which he had never hoped before because he didn't approve of imagination. And it just tells you, as the head of the Dursley family, what kind of family we're dealing with here. I think they do a very good job of describing everyone's character, like the way McGonagall just hangs out there all day, just watching and checking on things and seeing what's going on and observing. The way
Absolutely.
Dumbledore just pops up and notices she's there and smiles and just acts all nonchalant, like it's not one of the biggest days in Wizarding World history. The way Hagrid comes in and lands and can't help himself, and he's like boo-hoo sobbing, and McGonagall's like, yes, it's very sad, but please be quiet, you'll wake the Muggles. The way Dudley is throwing cereal at the wall, and the new word he learned that day was won't. And Professor McGonagall is like, no, you can't leave him with these people. I saw that baby kick his mother all the way down the street. Like,
they're the worst sort of Muggles.
Yeah, it gives a really good indication of who each of these characters are, and it is hilarious. I love it.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I literally wrote down the exact same thing about how, like, one of my favorite parts of this chapter was Vernon Dursley getting hugged by a random stranger. And how he stood rooted to the spot. Because, first of all, before he even has a face-to-face interaction with all of these strangers, he's in his car and he's observing all of the craziness going on around him and prejudging everyone as really like weirdos, right? Really weird.
Undursley-ish, I believe, is the word that was used.
Yes, very undursley-ish. As undursley-ish as you could possibly be, right? And how he thought that they were collecting something, like they were part of the Red Cross, or he thought that they were all like just dressed up for some silly reason, some stunt or something. And so all of this
Halloween.
Yes, but he was very unapproving of all of this cloak wearing and all this stuff, and he thought also that they were young.
That was the point that I was making, though. It's literally Halloween, and so seeing people dressed strangely shouldn't be a big deal because it's literally Halloween.
And he smacks into this guy and. Yeah, he smacks into this guy. He says he's sorry at first because he didn't even see who he ran into. Then when he sees who he ran into, it's like all those judgments come back and he's like, oh, goodness. And the interaction was hilarious because this guy wearing a purple cloak is so happy, so excited. And he's like, oh, no, you should be celebrating today, too. Even you, even all the Muggles. Who cares? Everybody celebrate. And Vernon, I could see his face. Like, this is one of the things that it's hilariously iconic for Vernon, and we don't get to see it in the movies, but I could just see his face, probably as purple as the cloak that the man was wearing, and just
extremely white.
And just unable to compute what is going on. I love that.
And it says, it was like he had just been hugged by a stranger. And he thought he had been called a Muggle.
Yeah. I love all of that.
Great. So great.
Here's something really weird though, and tell me what you think about this. And this is so Dumbledore, so very Dumbledore, like to just, oh, everything's perfect, whatever, you know. Harry is not even 2 years old, right?
No,
He's like one.
like a year and some change. July, August,
Yeah,
September. It's like a year and 3 months.
yeah, right. And Dumbledore takes this a year and 3 month old baby, puts a letter in his little like
Blanket.
satchel or yeah, like blanket. He must have been what, like swaddled, right? Like just like a little
Yeah,
burrito.
but at one, you can get out of a swaddling.
And he leaves him on a doorstep like for hours. Now,
And
in
not in a
in
basket, not in anything, just wrapped in a blanket.
in the book, I don't know why in the book it says that it was just a few hours. However, so a little bit past midnight, it also says that a little bit past midnight, Dumbledore shows up on Privet Drive, right? So how long did it take for Hagrid to get there with Harry? I mean, they were just there for a little while, having a conversation, eating some lemon drops, you know, and so it couldn't have been more than an hour. I mean, Dumbledore does say that Hagrid is late, but that's it, right? So let's say 1 o'clock in the morning. What time do you think that Petunia wakes up?
I don't know. She was putting out milk bottles. What time does the milkman come?
I don't know, 7?
Yeah.
In Japan, you have to. Yeah. In Japan, you have to take your trash out before 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to go with like 7.
That's fair. Although I want to say if she has a full breakfast waiting for Vernon and he leaves at 8:15 for work, she might be up kind of early.
All right. Well, even if it's like 5, that's still 4 hours to just leave a kid on a doorstep.
And you gave a little leeway. I was going to say at least 6, but either way, Dumbledore's first act of putting Harry in danger.
That's Dumbledore for you, right there. I think we're going to say this a lot. That's Dumbledore for you.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about book versus movie. There were 3 distinct things that I noticed that were different in the book versus in the movie. And with not a lot of meat, that's, yeah, about as much as I can do. So, number 1, Petunia's blonde. In the book. In the movie, she's not. She's a brunette.
Right.
Number 2, same thing with Dudley.
Right.
In the book, Dudley is blonde. In the movie, he is not. And the third thing, and we knew this already, because how could you even? It would take some kind of crazy special effect. Well, but they didn't have those kind of special effects back then. Hagrid is described as being almost as tall as 2 normal men and at least 5 times as wide. So yes,
I'm so sad about that.
But not like he was in the book.
Yeah.
His hands were the size of trash can lids, and his feet were like baby dolphins.
I know.
So like, the Hagrid in the movie is big, but not like book Hagrid.
I mean, couldn't you have put Homie on stilts?
Something.
Right?
Something. You put him in a fat suit, you could have done it. But, I digress. But those were the only 3 things.
it was very much that, like, it takes away the illusion of Hagrid really being half giant, and his comparison in size to the other giants, because the other giants, who are obviously like, you know, CG characters or whatnot, are like not even as massive, I think, as they should have been. They were massive, but not as massive as they should have been if you compare to Hagrid's real book size.
Right. Because I feel like Hagrid's real book size would have been like Grop's movie size.
Yeah.
And then Grop would have been bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the Giants would have been bigger than that. Because remember, the kids were like, oh my gosh, he really is small compared to the other Giants once they saw them.
Yeah. And I thought about it too. How could he have used Sirius's motorcycle if he really was that size?
But I'm wondering if, because Sirius lent it to him in his grief, if he didn't do some kind of engorgement charm on it.
Yeah, an engorgement charm, or maybe some kind of like strengthening charm.
Yeah, because remember after that, Hagrid always had the motorcycle. So maybe they made it bigger and stronger or whatever so that Hagrid could ride it. And then because he ended up keeping it, it just stayed big enough for him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does. Okay. What is your takeaway from this chapter? Or wait, did you see anything else that was different from the book versus the movie?
We didn't really get a lot of information about Vernon Dursley's job. We got a little bit, but at least not at the beginning. We didn't get it until the second book, where he has a meeting at his house. Right? Before then, we don't really know much of what he does. And like, there's that whole, like we talked about before, time where he's on his way to work and then interacting with some of the people on the street and whatnot. So that, I mean, very, very little, but that's a little bit of a takeaway. And then also all of the funny things on.
One thing about that jumped out at me though, because it talks about him missing all the owls outside because he works on the 9th floor. And even though he has a window, he works with his back to the window.
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to add that to it because he missed the owls. He missed the shooting stars. He missed like all of those things, the funny things on the news and the funny things happening outside that would explain to muggles like there's something going on, something strange afoot.
And I also think it's funny that he yelled at like 5 people and that was him having a great morning before he went out to go get his donut at lunch.
Yeah. I also made a note that it's funny how gut feelings are always right. So Vernon had a gut feeling that something was wrong. And sure enough, like, you know, he kind of tiptoed around it for a minute, asking Petunia, like, have you talked to your sister recently? And of course she got upset because she pretends like she doesn't have a sister. And she's like, no, why? And he's like, oh, you know, funny things on the news or whatnot. And then he even asks about Harry and he's like, yeah, their son would be about Dudley's age, right? His name is Howard. And she, you know, like trying not to really spill the beans. And Petunia's like, no, his name is Harry. And all of that kind of sunk, nasty common name. All of that kind of sunk in, right? So I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was really funny how Dumbledore, in the interaction between Dumbledore and McGonagall, he tells her, I must have passed like a dozen parties on my way here. But of course, you know, McGonagall is just sitting on a brick wall all day.
No, the minute he lands and apparates or whatever, and realizes he's being watched, makes eye contact with her, smiles, and says, "I should have known."
Love it.
And she's like, "How do you know it was me?" And he's like, "I've never seen a cat sit so stiffly."
Yes. Okay, so
it's
for you, what are your takeaways then on this chapter?
So again,
Do you have any?
I think that it really gives you a foreshadowing into each person's personality very well.
Yeah.
Because as the story goes on, it expands on exactly the very descriptive introductions we were given in this chapter. But my very favorite is going to be a quote. And my quote is, "I would trust Hagrid with my life," said Dumbledore.
Yeah.
And he says that several times throughout the series.
Absolutely. Yeah. He does.
Because we love Hagrid.
Yeah. So for me, kind of leaning into last week's episode or 2 weeks ago's episode, the last episode that we did, our intro chronicle, I would still rather live with the Dursleys. even after all of that, like I would prefer to be ignored. Which we'll find out more in the future. But like, I think it's just, I would rather live with the Dursleys. Also, knowing that now, when Dumbledore said, one of the reasons why I say that is because Dumbledore says, Harry is going to be famous before he can walk. Harry is going to be famous like before he's going to turn heads, right? It'll turn his head. He's just going to be in this position where everybody knows
he's
his name.
He's going to be a legend and he won't even know why. I think
and
that's
who knows? Maybe this day would be known as Harry Potter Day in the future, right? So again, I'd rather live with the Dursleys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's a very whimsical and I don't know, what's the word? Like it draws you in. Enticing. I think it's a very whimsical and enticing way to start off. And I think that's why it draws in people of all ages.
Yeah, I think it was a really good setting.
Yeah.
She who must not be named, she did a good job getting the readers interested.
Yeah, she did. And it makes you want more.
Yes.
So. Okay.
All right. Let's move on. I'm ready.
Shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to tell people what we're doing? What are we doing?
We're making magic, baby.